I would like to call the November 14th, 2019 meeting to order at 6:37. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam President,
I'm probably going to beat you to that punch.
well, punch on.
Okay. As you all know, I would like to we should take a moment of silence for our finance director, Shelley Welsi, lost a very important person in her family. So if we can please take a moment of silence for her and her family. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you.
Is there anything, Director Brooks?
I said thank you.
Okay. At this time, the chair is seeking a motion to adopt the agenda.
Madam President, I'll make a motion that we adopt the agenda as printed.
Second.
I second.
Any discussion? Director Watry. Aye. Director Abram.
Aye.
Director Brooks.
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 6-0. At this time, we will have audience comments. Ms. Washington. Shakira. Ms. Shakira Washington. Okay. All right. She's not here. Okay. All right. Mr. Vice President Clifford Reagan.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Tonight, I would like to present to you guys something that's been in the making for the longest over at Ruskin. I want to present the Booster Club, Ruskin's Booster Club treasurer, Mrs. DeReth, Meredith, and she's going to come up and speak to you guys tonight about the things that they're trying to do up at the Ruskin for the students of Ruskin High School.
Welcome.
My name is Kendra Parrott. I'm the treasurer over there at the Booster Club. So far this year, we've been doing great things. We have been running concessions. We've done some T-shirt sales, but overall, our goal is to give back to the school. So we're wanting to give back to our athletics, over to all of our after-school programs, things like the debate team, anything, just kind of support them and give them the encouragement that they need. So far this year, we have been able to give away $500 in funds towards the tennis team. We've given them a new pitching machine, so both teams, boys and girls, will be able to utilize that. Then we've also, I think we're in the works of working on a new mascot for Ruskin, so we'll have some more team spirit going on over there. So cheerleaders are excited. We've done everything from locker decorations, trying to bring some school spirit into the kids, try to make them happy, and I know they loved the decorations, and we're hoping to continue to do that. So, and of course you'll see us everywhere. So, like I said, we're just working on trying to get more volunteers right now, trying to get some more parents committed, just trying to grow. Trying to grow is what we're trying to do. Between 4 of us board members, we're really trying to push it between us. So. Hoping to bring in some more parents, so if we get more word out, then we'll be able to do that. But so far this year, as last year they kind of ran, I think there was 2 or 3 of them that were really trying to run it with Mr. Weiler over there at the high school. And ultimately, they had only placed $323 in sales. This year, we're already at well over $1,300 in sales.
Thank you. That's good.
So hopefully we'll be able to bring some more. So any questions from anyone?
No, thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to applause.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So for tonight's applause, we are recognizing 3 Truman Scholars, and I'm going to ask each one of them to come up when they hear their name called. The first scholar we are recognizing is 5th grader Zamaya Miller. Okay, Zamaya has 96% attendance. She is a Link cheerleader. She received a reading award for first quarter achievement. She participated in this talent show. Her talent was dancing. She was recognized for good character in Truman's weekly High Five Award. She won this award several times already. Characteristics that describe Zamaya: she's a leader, she gives 100% effort, and she is very helpful. Congratulations, Zamaya. And our next Truman Scholar we are recognizing is Jacob Nadum. Jacob is a 4th grader at Truman. On the state assessment, he scored advanced in communication arts, and his attendance is 98%. He received a reading award for first quarter achievement, and he has also been recognized for good character in Truman's weekly High Five Award. He's won this also several times. The characteristics that describe Jacob: he is responsible, kind, and a good friend. Congratulations, Jacob. And last but not least is Peyton Murphy. Peyton is a 5th grader at Truman. On the state assessment, she scored advanced in communications arts. Her attendance is at 98%. She received the Math Science Award for first quarter. She also participated in the talent show, and her talent was web coding. She has been recognized for good character in Truman's weekly High Five Award. She also has won this several times. The characteristics that describe her are empathetic, leader, and a motivator. Congratulations, Kate. And at this time, I'm going to ask their proud principal, Sue Herrera, to come forward, as well as Superintendent Dr. Cargile and President Briggs for a picture.
Madam,
Madam President,
Madam President, before.
sorry. Parents, can you please join your children? This is just as much as an accomplishment to you as it is for them.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's nice. Get on in there. Get on in there. You can be in front if you want to.
I think you're missing the little one there.
Yeah. Yeah, come on in the front. There you go. Camera. Madam President, before they go, tell them to come on up here. And then I want to say something before they all leave. Come on, shake it. Y'all come on up here. Yeah, y'all come on up here. Come on up here. I want to say something before they leave. Yeah. Pineapples, pineapples. Way to go, man. Way to go. Congratulations. Keep that up. Keep that attendance and stuff going on. Keep that going on. Keep that going on. All right, Miss Herrera. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Holla. Yeah,
Right,
Madam President.
hold on one second. This is some exciting news, so apparently there's a few board members that would like to say a few words. Vice President Reagan?
You know, I get so excited for all these Truman people. You know, you guys was on the back burner to being closed last year. I mean, you know, and I'm so proud every time I get a chance to say something and visit y'all building, visit y'all favorite principal. I'm just excited. I can't help myself, because when we come over there as directors, Miss Herrera, you do a good job in welcoming us. I have to give you up the props. You give us a good job. You've always been helpful. You are telling the Truman story, and this is a Truman story. So parents, I'm very excited to see this. Y'all keep on doing what y'all doing. This makes me excited. Over all the bad, I get to see some good. And anytime I get to see some good, I want to give y'all roses while y'all living. So I want to tell you students, these are y'all's roses from board members because we are as one. We salute you guys for doing the things that you guys are taught to do. And it just goes to show me that you can always save the best for last because you guys were on a burning block. And I am so proud of you guys. So keep on. Keep on, PTA president over there. I know it's rough, but keep it going on.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so he said it all. All right, this time we're going to move on to principal executive summaries.
All right, let me go in order of my packets. The first,
I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. I got to approve the minutes.
oh, okay.
I was so excited. I was looking at the kids run out of here and the parents. I wanted to say something, but I was like, no, I'm not going to say anything. At this time, the chair is seeking approval of the October 2017 and October 2019 minutes. Have every board member had an opportunity to review those? Okay,
Yes.
all right. At this time, I'm looking for a motion.
Madam President, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 17, 2019 and October 29 special meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
In discussion.
Director Abram. Director Watry.
Aye.
Director Carter.
Aye.
Director Reagan. Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Director Brooks.
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right. Now we move on to executive updates. Welcome.
Good evening. Our first principal tonight is Dr. Murkerson sharing the executive update for this evening for Santa Fe Millennium. Welcome, Dr. Murkerson.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. And good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
I'm the principal of Millennium at Santa Fe. Our enrollment now is 379 with 72% students of color, and our attendance is 83%. Moving to our summative data, in 2019, we had 37% proficient in advanced and communication arts, mathematics 47% proficient in advanced, and science 32%. Our key findings for summative data was math increased by 15% from 2018. ELA scores dropped 2%. However, our below basic scores as well as our advanced, below basic scores decreased and our advanced students increased. Science was a new assessment for 2018. Our formative data findings, we do the already tests in the beginning of the school year. We had a building total of 37% based on the students that are testing grades 3 through 5. In language arts and math, we had 47% in grades 3 through 5. Other important findings, our discipline totals this year are 16 for the month of August, September, and October. November is not complete yet, so we have that updated for you at the end of the month. The totals of our behavior incident decreased from 17-19 to 18-19 school years. Our trend is higher from last year to this year. Historically, the majority of our discipline referrals occur in the beginning and the ending of the school year. Our racial equity. Our care and our equity teams meet once a month to facilitate facilitate courageous conversations as well as school climate using mindful inquiry to address potential unfair practices at Millennium. The care team members have 2 students in their focus group, and they go through the complete care cycles once a quarter. Our Principal Advisory Committee has 12 students. We meet monthly and discuss various things based on the school. They are really excited about Principal Advisory Committee. They make, different decisions about lunch, field trips, as well as ending activities, including field day. Our parental involvement, we're super happy about our fall conferences. We had 319, which is great for us for fall conferences. Meet and greet was 110. We definitely got to get those numbers up for our meet and greet, but really happy about our fall conferences. Our focus goals and objectives, goals 1, 2, and 3 go with our academics, ELA, math, and science. The goal is to meet or beat the district average of 50% by decreasing the number of below students by 5%. Goal number 4, enhance instruction through the effective integration of technology to increase student achievement. And goal 5, promote and maintain a safe and positive student-centered environment to ensure effective implementation of school-wide procedures, developing assessment-capable leaders, emphasizing on teaming, increasing parental involvement, and homeschool communications. Thank you. Any questions?
I do have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Murkison, I noticed that there is a almost significant decline in your attendance. Can you share some of the factors that are attributing to that?
I think that we have to, we've had a new crop of kids. So the goal is to get our kids and parents to learn the Millennium Way about how important school is for your kids to be in attendance. Every Sunday they get a calling post, and I'll start out every calling post the same. Attendance matters, every minute counts. So we're constantly sending that out. The last 2 weeks, I started sending a text reminder. So if they swipe left to ignore my call, they're gonna get that text. So we're constantly trying to work with the parents and getting the kids to school. We have a lot of kids that come to school late, so we have to meet them and try to get the parents to come in and sign the kids in instead of just dropping them off and leaving. Once they bring them in and sign them in, we can talk to them and tell them about the importance of being in school on time.
Madam President,
Yes, Director Watry.
I just want to commend you on your parent involvement. It seems like from the last 3 years, it has jumped up pretty significantly, especially with your fall conferences. So your efforts in getting a hold of parents is actually being seen here as being productive.
Yes, sir.
I commend you on that one.
Thank you.
So you have the donuts for the dads. When are you going to have the coffee for the moms?
It's going to be muffins for moms, and
Okay.
it's pretty funny about that. I go in there, introduce myself, and I leave. We have a couple of females that try to sneak in, and I just have to go let them know that y'all going to have y'all day soon.
What day is muffins for moms?
I think it's in January.
Thank you.
I'll make sure you get an invitation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Murkison.
Muffins for moms.
Next, we'll have Mr. Howard. Help me welcome Mr. Howard, principal at
Welcome,
Dodge
welcome.
Elementary.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Madam President, Madam Superintendent. My name is Adrian Howard, I'm principal of Dobbs Elementary School. Our demographics for 2019-2020, right now our enrollment is like 377, but it's increased since I initially started filling out this form. And our attendance is at 85.7, but we expect an increase by the time the school year is over. Our summative data for 2019, our proficient and advanced students are down from the previous years for ELA to 23.9%. Our math scores are up for 2018 to 2019, about 4% from the previous year to 29% proficient and advanced. Our science scores, which is a new test, is down by 4% from 2007. Some of our key summative findings is the building math scores increased 2.64% from 2018. Building ELL scores dropped 4%. However, the trend in the number of students below basic is lower than the number of students in basic category. And so you garner more points that way. Scores decreased from 17 to 18 by 4.5%. Formative data, when we look at our formative data from iReady, some of our scores are encouraging than they have been in the past. In 2018, we started the school year with 4 kids on or above reading level in ELA 1 through 6. In same year, in math, we had only 15 students, and that's not on your paper. But as you can see, our MAP scores for grade 3, 26.79, grade 4, 36.92, and 5th grade, 23.88. For ELA, 24.24, 25%, and our lower score at 3rd grade is 16.7. Other important notes are discipline. So this year we're off to a little increase. As you guys know, I wasn't there in the very beginning, but there's a trend here. Like most schools, our discipline is usually higher in the beginning and the end of the school months, just because students probably get a little restless and teachers get tired. And so that trend is kind of normal for many schools. So our racial equity work, our racial equity care team meet regularly to assess the school climate, facilitate courageous conversation by using mindful inquiries to address potential unfair practices at Dobbs. The care team principles are used to identify focused students, and measures are being put in place to ensure that all students are successful. And so one of the things that we like to do, and I haven't talked to Casey yet, but on Tuesdays, on my PLC days, I want to redeliver and work with our students in the care team principles, because it goes right in hand with DACL, developing accessible, capable learners, and so assessment learners. And so that's one of the pieces that we want to merge together, and then also do that on Wednesdays, because I think those are 2 pieces that should be merged together. Our parent involvement, it fluctuates. 2019 meet and greet 110, 29.3%. Fall conferences 246, which actually is up from previous years. We just had our math and science night. We had 140 people on Tuesday, and I have the sign-in sheets to prove it. That's with donuts. We had 153, and that's 41% of our population, which is very encouraging. And so we do this at the same time we do our book fair. And so what we found is increases in book sales when parents come at the same time. Focus goals and objectives. Realistically, we're looking at English, language, arts, and math and science. And so realistic for us, our goal is, we know that the district mark is 50, but realistically, we think we can reach 35% of our students being proficient in advance. Goal 4, enhance instruction through effective integration of technology, promote and maintain a safe environment. And so we're looking at emphasizing on teaming, increased parent involvement, and homeschool communication. So the 4 R's, when you look at the care team piece, the relationship piece, the rigor, the relevance, and the realness. And so we take all those pieces and we say, what can we really do to increase our relationship with parents and get buy-in? And what we know is if parents value education, their students will. So that's why we think the care team work is so valuable. Any questions?
Madam President.
Yes, Vice President Reagan.
Glad to see you back, Mr. Howard. I'm glad to see you. Once again, you are great to open your doors also, and I forgot to say that about Dr. Murkison also. You guys are gracefully opening your doors up to us as directors, and I appreciate the both of you guys. I do, and you just helped me. You used to have a Saturday school, is that correct?
Yes.
How is a Saturday school as far as with your statistics? How did that help you as with your school at that time when you used to have them or whatever, or you know?
What we understood is, in today's times, non-traditional things have to be done in order to move students. And sometimes schools can't be open from Monday through Fridays. You have to open them Saturdays. And so we used to have partnerships with different groups that would come in, and they would come in and work with our students as well. Teachers would come in, and then even cardboard used to show up sometime and just kind of talk to our students and do some mentoring there as well. The non-traditional things are the things that really push us over. And the parents enjoy that because they felt like we took interest in their children, that we would give up 10 Saturday mornings in a row just to be there and to ensure that they were prepared for the math test and also to fill in the gaps of their learning and different things like that. We haven't done it in the last couple of years. I think one year I think I was out, but there's not a lot of interest in it as we go forward.
I'm confused. When you say not a lot of interest, like what do you mean exactly when you say that?
Well, there was a couple issues around it at district level, and we probably can discuss those a little bit later.
Okay,
Oh,
okay, all right. All right, thank you so much. If there's no more questions.
Good to see you, sir.
thank you, sir.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Horde
Ms. Horde.
at Compass Elementary. Help me welcome Ms. Horde.
Welcome.
Welcome.
And by the way, your prayer was beautiful
Yeah,
at the awards dinner.
Thank
last
you.
week.
Thank you. So good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Erica Horde, and I am the new principal of Compass Elementary. I will begin with our demographic data. We currently have 377 students at Compass Elementary. 94% of our student population are students of color. All students receive free lunch. Our attendance is currently at 81.5%. The attendance goal for the 2019-20 school year for Compass is 85%. In order to increase attendance and support the district's strategic focus of student attendance, Compass has formed an attendance team that will work diligently to reduce chronic absenteeism. Our team will partner with and utilize the research-based tools and strategies from Attendance Works to improve attendance rates. Compass will also celebrate students that have perfect attendance and improved attendance through positive incentives. We are hopeful that these practices will encourage students to be on time and attend school every day. Looking at our ELA MAP data, it shows a 3% increase in the number of students that are performing at proficient and advanced levels. Math MAP data shows a 6.7 decrease in the number of students performing at proficient and advanced levels. As Compass utilizes district curriculum with fidelity, increased small group instruction, and embraces the 4 R's of rigor, relevance, relationship, and realness, we anticipate an increase in ELA and math scores. Our 2019 baseline science score shows that Compass had 16.1% of fifth grade students performing at proficient and advanced levels. We will have comparable data after this year. Next, we will look at our formative iReady data. As a school in the area of reading, 10% of Compass students are reading on grade level. In the area of math, 5% of students are on grade level. In order to increase the number of students performing on grade level, Compass will embrace the district strategic focus of academic growth and continuous improvement by fully implementing district curriculum for Tier 1 instruction, increasing small group instruction, providing after-school tutoring, and continuously analyzing student data to improve instruction. Next, we'll look at discipline. District referrals have increased some from the same time last year. But to address this, Compass has instituted new building-wide expectations, behavior expectations. Compass has also introduced the consistent use of morning classroom community meetings and quarterly grade level assembly meetings with myself to cement building-wide expectations and the BIS philosophy. Compass Equity Team meets once a month to plan and develop professional development that will assist in eliminating beliefs that undermine student achievement and growth. Through the use of videos, articles, and discussion, the equity team will be tackling those belief systems that hinder academic progress. The Compass Care Team also meets once a month to carry out collaborative action research that will be necessary to improve instruction and increase the use of culturally responsive teaching strategies. The Principal Student Advisory Council meets monthly for the purpose of establishing a strong relationship between students and administration. It is an opportunity for me to give students voice. Students are given the chance to express ideas and solutions to strengthen the culture and climate of our school community. We will now look at parental involvement. For the first time, Compass parents were given the opportunity to attend open house, which allowed for parents to learn more about our reading and math curriculum, classroom expectations, and homework procedures. Compass also saw an increase in participation at Goodies with Grandparents, and for the first time, Compass had Donuts with Men. 87 men came out to support their scholars. Men were encouraged to support their scholars in the area of reading by purchasing books from the Scholastic Book Fair. The participants of Donuts with Men spent over $1,000 that day to assist in increasing reading achievement. Compass will continue to support the district pillar, Our Community, by allowing many opportunities for parents to partner in the educational growth of their students. Our focus goals and objectives are meant to increase our proficient and advanced students in ELA, math, and science by 50% or higher. Compass will also work to decrease the number of students scoring below basic to 20% or less. We will work to increase instructional rigor as well as strengthen small group instruction in the areas of reading and math. Compass will continue to utilize Go Math curriculum and increase the instructional effectiveness of its implementation. Compass teachers will also fully put into practice Project Lead the Way curriculum, which gives students real-world experience in science. We will also continue to utilize BIST, building-wide expectations, and Trauma Smart to decrease discipline events. Lastly, Compass will utilize Attendance Works to increase Tier 1 and Tier 2 attendance. Thank you for allowing me to share this evening. Are there any questions?
Ms. Horde, first of all, I want to thank you for the attention that you give our children. You are an amazing candidate
Thank you.
as our principal at Compass.
Thank you.
Amazing asset. Yes, Vice President Reagan.
I'm just once again, I'm glad to see you here, Ms. Horde. I know that I feel welcome as I do coming over to your building along with the rest of the directors. And I'm so surprised because I'm looking at this science, so I'm excited that this percentage is so high, and as far as, where we're going. And I know that the stats will be released pretty soon, so I'm looking forward in the science part for the EA, the APR scores, but I'm looking at it, some of the things, and seeing some trends here. Huh? Oh, you didn't get it? I'm sorry.
No, she's updated it.
Yeah, it's updating. I'm sorry. So I just want to, I'm just glad. And what is some of you guys what do you guys do to get, get some of this up as it is?
The science.
Yes, ma'am.
Our school now has a science makerspace, and so it will allow for students to complete hands-on activities and just give them a real-world experience with science, and also just fully embracing Project Lead the Way, which also allows for hands-on activities for students to get that concrete understanding of scientific concepts.
Okay. And we still working on the providers for y'all, so we ain't forgot about y'all.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. We ain't forgot about you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Ms. Blancardi at Urban Elementary.
Welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Cargile, Board President Briggs, Board Directors, and members of the Executive Leadership Team. I am Anna Blancardi, the proud and humble principal of the new Irvin Elementary School, PK through 5th grade. We are thoroughly enjoying the older students at our school. They serve as role models for our younger children. It delights me to share tonight with you Irvin's data. I will begin with our demographics. We currently have a little bit less than what's showing up there, 678 scholars enrolled, of which 91% are students of color. Our attendance is at 86% of scholars attending 90% or more of the time. We ended last year with 71% of our scholars coming to school 90% or more of the time. So we are excited to see this significant increase from last year's attendance data. This year, our goal is to meet or exceed the 85%, but striving for the 90% mark. In collaboration with Link, the Irvin Attendance Committee is working to strategize and implement ways we can continue to improve attendance and help families who need support to get their children to school every day and on time. Next, I will move to the summative data findings, and as this marks the first year for Irvin Elementary, housing grades 3 through 5, we do not have scores to report. Scores this year will be our baseline records. Moving on to formative data findings, I'd like to begin with pre-K. Our pre-K students take the STAR Early Literacy Assessment. They also take the pre-K assessment from the Creative Curriculum. Both assessment data are used to inform instruction so we can monitor and ensure for students to be ready for the next phase of their education, K. When examining pre-K formative data, you will see a slight increase in the percentage of students who are transitional probable readers over the past 3 years. We are super excited to see this, and we anticipate this trend to continue. These students are learning how to blend sounds and word parts, words, story patterns, all those skills needed to become readers. We are on the right track in pre-K and look forward to meeting or exceeding the goal of 70% or more of our students to be on track and ready for kindergarten. Moving on to grades K through 5 formative data findings, when examining the initial iReady data for grades K through 5, you will see our building average is 13% proficient in reading, with our highest in 3rd grade at 24% proficient, and 8% proficient in math, with our highest being in 4th grade at 11%. This is a new assessment, so we do anticipate an increase in winter. Next, I direct you to look at other important data findings that include our discipline, our racial equity, and our parent involvement. Discipline referrals have seen a slight increase compared to last year. We continue to train staff on trauma smart techniques, as well as the BIST framework, to work effectively with students and reduce the number of office referrals. But more importantly, we're striving to teach our scholars life goals to be able to make the right choices even when it might be difficult or something he or she doesn't really want to do. Irvin has a strong care and equity teams whose presence is beginning to permeate throughout our school. In meetings, it is typical to hear discussions that include staff beliefs. We are growing in our understanding that beliefs do drive our behaviors, which drive our outcomes. As a building leader in Hickman Mills, it warms my heart and pleases me when I hear staff take responsibility for what happens in their classrooms. I am proud to work in a district that values this work and supports the work and expects the work to move forward and infiltrate our school community. Parent involvement percentages remain constant with enrollment the past 2 years. We were excited to see more families come out for our annual curriculum and cookies event, as this is the time parents learn of classroom expectations of the curriculum. Our district also provides us with an amazing communication tool, Blackboard. Through Blackboard, we can communicate out our weekly newsletters, text messages, email reminders, etc. And I believe that multiple methods of communication allow us to have good attendance for the parent involvement events. Our focus goals and objectives for our school. Goals 1 and 2 are tied together. Our goal is to meet or exceed the district goal of 50% or more of students scoring at proficient or advanced in English language arts and in math. Goal 3, to enhance instruction through the effective integration of technology to increase student achievement. And we were so blessed just yesterday to have our instruction technology team come out and do an amazing professional development session with us. Teachers even began earning some of their badges, and they learned how to really utilize some of these new tools in their classroom. And today I saw evidence of it, and that was so exciting. So thank you to Dr. Smith and her team for that. We also, Goal 4, launched Project Lead the Way curriculum in grades pre-K through 5 to raise our academic achievement. And our last goal is to promote and maintain a safe, positive, and student-centered environment by ensuring effective implementation of BIST, the trauma-smart informed care practices, school-wide procedures, emphasis on teaming, and increased parental involvement and homeschool communications. I hope that this summary gives you a good glimpse of Irvin Elementary, and we welcome you to keep coming out to our school. Thank you for allowing me to serve as Irvin's leader.
So, Ms. Blancardi, I love calling you Dr. Blancardi. First of all, it's always a treat to come and visit your school and see your babies working and moving around. I do want to thank you for the hospitality of your young scout that escorted me around the school on my last visit. And again, a special thanks to Mr. Weekly for getting Phillips pavement out there so those kids can get them a playground. And so thanks for all that proactive work. And so just thank you for your service.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, Vice President Reagan.
I know, first of all, I'm looking at everything, and I know, first of all, I want to thank you for taking on all the challenges that you have had to this year. I really do say that meaningfully. And I also want to thank you for all the hospitality that you also give at your school. And you keep on doing that, and everything's gonna pave on out for you. What have been saying since now that you've had the fifth graders, and I know that their stats haven't came out yet, but what do you see as far as the improvement right now? What do you see? I mean, since you have been able to be around them now, and the new grades have been added on, how do you see them coming along right now?
I am seeing improvements in math. I do look forward to seeing more improvements in science as we've been really digging more into the district curriculum with the Discovery Ed Tech book and all of the technology equipment. We are planning and hosting a showcase of our learning on December 6th. So we invite you out for that. A pre-K will be in the morning from 9 to 10, and then grades K through 5 in the afternoon from 1 to 2.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me serve.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you to all four building leaders. I appreciate your time and preparation for tonight's presentation. It means a lot. Thanks. Next, executive updates and information, starting with 8.1 enrollment and attendance report.
Welcome, Dr. Skinner.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight, if you will look at the screen, I'm very excited to see all the green up there. We are still, if you look at the district overall, it's not quite a point, but we're at 0.59% higher than we were a year ago. And when you look at that whole right column, there are a few red, but I'm really excited. Last year at this time, they were all red with the exception of fourth grade. Fourth grade was up like 0.69 last year, but the rest were all red. So we are making great strides with this, especially if you look kindergarten. We've moved kindergarten back to the elementary schools, and evidently it is having a positive effect on attendance. It's up, almost 5% from where it was a year ago. And a real great surprise is Ruskin is all 4 grades up. And if you remember how Ruskin has really struggled with attendance over the last few years, they have been struggling. Basically, Dobbs, Truman, and Ruskin are doing extremely well with attendance this year. And part of this is due to the fact our efforts with attendance works all here. So right now I'm going to just share a few things about that so you'll kind of know. Right now, what we've been doing is with our district attendance teams, we've been reaching out to parents, talking to parents, trying to find out what it is that's hindering the attendance and keeping the children from coming to school. So at the elementary level, basically what the parents are saying, they're having a difficult time getting the children to school on time for odd jobs. Some of them had complex custody arrangements. Some of their young children require a lot of energy and focus that they just don't have the patience to get to. Some student illnesses and transportation and childcare. Parents are more inclined to keep them at home for extended periods of time when their children are sick. At the secondary level, almost exclusively district-wide, it's culture and climate. Those are the reasons the students are staying home. They're not engaged in a lot of school activities. They're not engaged in meaningful relationships with adults in the buildings. Therefore, what is going on is the elementary schools are pushing to connect all students in attendance pilot to link after school, even if it's not needed. We have found there's a correlation with students that are in link, they're wanting to be at school more often. Gives them another touch point with another caring adult in the building. They're also making positive phone calls home, thanking parents for improving attendance and sending their children to school. At the secondary level, they are doing a check-in, check-out procedure, so they're tying those students in the pilot in with an adult, so they're checking in and building that culture back into the buildings. The middle school and ninth grade are also encouraged to enroll in Link as well. So the next steps next week is all the elementary attendance teams will be on one phone call with Attendance Works and Dr. Kia Turner, and the secretary will be the same on a separate call, and they are going to be talking about some of their challenges, looking at the root cause analysis, and looking at some of the efforts that they've made to see how successful they are. So again, we're very excited about that. I think we're making great strides, and we're going to continue to do so. Kind of a side note away from attendance, I wanted to mention something about Cornerstones for Care. You're going to see a little bit later, there's an MOU that we enacted this past week. Student Services met with representatives from Cornerstone for Care to discuss a new program being offered to the district. One program is Functional Family Therapy. It is family-based intervention program designed to keep families together. It's a short-term program. It's in-home therapy for the families, and the goals are to improve family communication and supportiveness, help the family adopt positive solutions to family problems, develop positive behavior change and parenting strategies, and to keep the family safe together. It's for ages 11 through 18, and it's for their families. Last week, Cornerstones met with family school liaisons, and so family school liaisons, counselors, and teachers can refer students for behavioral or emotional problems. So the program is comprised of a 12 to 14 week of family therapy services. One other aspect with Cornerstones for Care is they're offering direct services for school-based programs. It's directed primarily at pre-K, but it is going to be open to all grades. It's going to offer therapeutic services for students as well as office referrals for behavioral therapy. And this is going to be a free program to us because basically they're going to be using Medicaid and some personal insurance. So we're very excited about seeing this right now. Any questions?
I'm glad to learn that we are working with Counterstones of Care. They have been an advocate for children for a very long time.
I'm excited as well.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, sorry,
Yes.
don't leave yet. Please don't leave yet. One thing I want to make sure that we do, even with Cornerstones of Care, anybody else that would come in with therapeutic services, is that they're also addressing stigma. We have
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. That we're also addressing stigma. There's a big stigma with as we're a district that has a lot of people of color, there's a big stigma when it comes to therapy. I want to make sure that Cornerstones of Care is aware of that so that we ask them how we can collaborate with them on addressing that stigma so we can ensure that these services are actually utilized.
Okay, that's a great point. I'll make sure that I mention it with them.
Thank you, sir.
If I might, and I think I heard what Director Watts was saying, maybe I'm saying it another way. A lot of times these services are provided, and the people who are providing them are not culturally astute enough to know the culture of the students or the families they're dealing with. And sometimes it can do more harm than good. All well intentioned, but at the end of the day, it depends upon whether or not they're culturally savvy to that particular culture. And that always concerns me. It all concerns all of us. But I think at the end of the day, it's just good to have it. It's free and all like that, and we need it. But also, we need to do some examination as to what kind of track record do they have as it relates to kids of color, and particularly kids who are disadvantaged, who go through the kind of traumatic things that our kids go through.
Right.
And if they don't, as I say, sometimes you can do more damage than harm if you don't understand that.
I agree, and I will tell you that the person in charge of the family therapy, her name is Jacqueline William, and then she is a female of color. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Skinner. And I look forward to hearing more about the number of families who accept services through Cornerstones of Care. I was excited when Dr. Skinner updated me that we are now able to provide those supports for our families. And we do have to work on creating or sending a message to families that just because they may say yes to counseling, that's not a negative thing. In fact, they're saying yes to supports for their children as well as the family to improve the environment in the home, which also improves environments within the school and classrooms in the district. And so I hope we are able to brainstorm ways in which we can increase the number of families that are open to the family counseling that Cornerstones will provide to our families. Next on the agenda is item 8.2. Ms. Franklin will be sharing the beginning of year data. And so as she prepares to set up for tonight, just wanting to make sure the board is aware that this presentation, this update is beginning of year data, and it aligns with quality indicator 2.2. in terms of effective instructional practices and strategies being utilized within a district, in addition to our 5-year strategic plan and the pillar, our schools, in terms of a strategic focus on accreditation, as well as academic growth and continuous improvement. And so this provides an update as to where we are in terms of student performance, discipline, and a host of other items at the beginning of the school year. In March, the board will receive an update in terms of middle of the year data. And then in June, end of year data. And so this is the initial update for the board that I've referenced throughout the start of the school year in terms of how our students are performing. And so I want to bring attention as to why you're receiving this information. One, it's important to share with the board how our students are performing, but also being able to present to our community stakeholders as well. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Ms. Franklin at this time.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We always love to share student achievement data, and as Dr. Cargill shared, this is our quarter one data that I will be sharing, starting with our academic achievement goals for 2020. And goal 1.1 indicates that in English language arts, we'd like to have at least 35% of our students scoring proficient or advanced on the MAP and EOC test, and that is at least 35%. Goal 1.2, mathematics, at least 30% of our students scoring proficient or advanced. Goal 1.3 in science, at least 40% of students scoring proficient and advanced. And finally, goal 1.4, social studies, at least 55% of our students. Right underneath our goals, you will see our first fall iReady assessment. I'm sorry.
Where is it at? We don't have that.
Oh.
We're looking for it. It's not even in the slide.
No, we didn't upload it, but there should have been copies for.
No, that's Mrs. Hord's stuff. Yeah, I didn't know. That's okay. We just don't have no copies.
Sorry about that. I was wondering, I kind of got some looks. I thought, well, maybe I'm going too fast. Maybe they were looking at certain numbers, but sorry about that. I just thought they were in the folder, so.
It's no problem. Uh, she's got to make some. She's gonna make some copies.
She's making them now.
Can we take a little part? Can I ask for that?
A recess, a 5-minute recess.
No, let's take a 2-minute recess as directors. 2 minutes. That give us a time to use the restroom and come right back. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Starting at 7:32.
Can I make a motion that we take a 2-minute recess?
That's what.
Second.
All right. Do I have to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. Who seconded?
April
Okay.
seconded.
Okay, Abram. Okay, Director Carter. Director Brooks. Director Abrams. And Director Waltree.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Votes carried 5-0. Intermission.
Doing great, doing great.
Those copies came at the right.
I wasn't meaning for it. Oh, no. Yes. Indeed.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I stopped. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
271.
Thank you, Ms. Womble, for assisting. All right, we have everything. Thank
Okay,
you.
you want me to go ahead and start? I am so sorry, I just assumed you had the copies. So I will continue with our iReady scores. That first set, oh, do I need to wait for everybody?
Make a motion to yeah.
Like a motion to reconvene.
Madam President, I make a motion that we go back into open session.
Second.
Director Watry? Director Abram?
Aye.
Director Brooks? Director Carter?
Aye.
Vice President Reagan?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries 4.
Okay. That first set of data that you see there is our iReady reading scores for the fall. Students took this assessment in September. And as you can see, the information is shared on and above grade level. That second tier is looking at students that are scoring at least one grade level below, I'm sorry. And then tier 3 would be students that are scoring 2 or more grade levels below, and that would be our tier 3. And as you can see, as a total school district, our students that are scoring on or above grade level, we are at 13%. Tier 2, we're at 38%, and Tier 3, we're at 49%. And so just as a reminder, this is our first time taking the new iReady assessment. So this is a change from STAR. So we know that there are some opportunities for students to get acclimated to the assessment. We also know that the assessment is more rigorous. So we anticipate seeing some increases when students take the assessment in the winter. What gives us hope is by looking at our Tier 2, these are students that are right there on the cusp of being on grade level. And if you look at first grade, for example, you see 76% of students are sitting in that Tier 2. So obviously, we'd like to see students moving over into Tier 1, and then students in Tier 3 moving over into Tier 2, and eventually into Tier 1 when we get to the spring. What we're hoping as a short-term goal is to see our students in the winter, at least 25 to 35% of our students in that first tier. And by the end of the year, our goal is always at least 50% of our students on grade level or above grade level. For math, again, all of the scores are in tiers. As you can see, our total for Tier 1 for the district is 9%. For Tier 2, 47%. And for Tier 3, 44%. And again, scores are not where we want to see them, obviously. And again, we're really hopeful that a lot of those students will perform at a higher level when we take the assessment again in the winter. As you can see, as I mentioned previously, looking at the reading scores, have quite a few students sitting in Tier 2, which means that they're really close to being on grade level. And so as we're looking at test scores, we're also looking at skill scores to see how close are students. And in some instances, we see that kids are like 4 or 5 points away from scoring on grade level. So we feel really confident that we will see an increase in students performing in Tier 1. On the next page, we're looking at some secondary formative data. This is how high school students are performing on the practice EOC assessments. And as you can see, for Algebra 1, students are at 12%, English 2, 15%, Biology 30%, and Government 16%. And this is just for the fall. Our pre-K students will take early literacy in the winter, so they'll start taking their assessment for the first time in the winter. Some of the professional development highlights. We are right in the middle of our data conferences with Prep KC benchmarking support, and we are also participating in Project Lead the Way launch. We just had several teachers participate in a 3-day training to be leads for Project Lead the Way, and they will then train other teachers. We also have our NEPRIS Connector, which is an online platform which allows teachers to engage with industry professionals and have those professionals present to students in the classroom virtually. So you don't have to necessarily go out or have them come in, but you can still access industry professionals across the country. We also have Trauma Smart for our secondary schools, right in the process of that. And then we also have our Missouri Model Districts programming that's being provided this year. And Mr. Howard mentioned DACL, which is, developing assessment capable learners. And so that's what we're working on district-wide with the state. Moving on to attendance, and Dr. Skinner shared a little bit about attendance, so I won't dive too deep, but we do have, like Dr. Skinner shared, some schools that have really made some increases, and just a couple of schools that are still trying to get where they need to be, specifically Compass Millennium and Smith Hale had a little bit of a dip as compared to last year. Looking at discipline, that's on the last page. What you see is a comparison year to date this year to where schools were at the end of the 18-19 school year. And so looking at this data, it gives you kind of a snapshot of potentially where schools are in terms of we don't necessarily want to be where we were last year. And so how close are we to meeting that mark? And so we're hoping to see that schools are really a lot lower. Some schools had some really low numbers in the 18-19 school year, but there's also some schools, particularly at the secondary level, where you saw quite a few referrals for the 18-19 school year, and you can see that there are some significant decreases in terms of where schools are right now. As a district, you can see that we ended the 18-19 school year with 4,663 referrals, and we're currently at 1,357. So this is for quarter one. And then beneath that is just kind of the top three categories related to disciplinary events. A lot of that has to do with tardies, disrespect or disruptive speech and conduct, and fighting. And then finally, that last section looks at our superintendent hearing referrals. And as you can see, there's the 18-19 end of year number of superintendent hearing referrals, and then where we are for the 19-20 school year thus far. I'll give you a chance to look through that, and I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, ma'am, if I might, Madam President. Yes. Do the other districts use these same forms? Are they universal throughout the district, throughout the state?
Just the format that we're using to track it. This is just the format that we put together to share the data with the board.
So, since this is the first year that we are using already, how do you see it comparing to our STAR test?
Well, I do think that in terms of preparing students for the MAP assessment, it was definitely time for us to look at a different formative assessment. We have been using STAR since before I came, so that's been 5 years. And most districts are not using STAR anymore because as the assessment changes, we really need to make sure that students are practicing with an assessment that really is more MAP-like. And so it is a challenging test. It's a lot longer than what STAR was, and so students really have to have the stamina to make it through the test. And so I mean, part of this is just the baseline. Students now know what the test is like, and so as they get more familiar with the assessment, we do anticipate that we'll see an increase. So some of it is just not just assessing what students know, but then students just getting acclimated to the assessment.
Madam President.
Yes, Vice President. Question again. So here we are with, so districts can determine which one of the assessment areas of assessment that they use.
Yes. What happens is a lot of times when we're meeting with the state, we have an opportunity to talk about what they're seeing across the state and other districts, what's really working. We have vendors come in and present. And so we really try to vet collaborating with other district administrators. We also visit other schools to see what the assessments look like. We look at data. We want to make sure that our students are being exposed to the most accurate and kind of the most, I want to say, rigorous standards. Some companies are kind of moving forward with that, and some are not moving as quickly as others. And so we know that STAR was just one of those vendors where they just had not updated their assessment, and they hadn't aligned their assessment to the most recent standards. And so we felt like it was a good decision to move forward with a different assessment.
If I might further, I know that we don't control that necessarily. Well, so DESE doesn't have a standard on that. DESE doesn't say here's, and the reason I'm raising this issue is because I don't know at the end of the day whether we're all on the same page. if one's using STAR, somebody's using something else, and then when you come to the testing bit, how do you know that your students, school district A, is getting as much as school district B or C?
Sometimes it comes down to you kind of have like your top three. So usually there will be vendors that rise to the top. These are the assessments that most districts are using. And so you'll have like iReady, you might, there's one called, oh God, NWEA. And so those are kind of the top vendors, and those are the ones that the state will recommend. And that's typically what you would see districts choosing from because they're saying that these are the ones that are most appropriate for our students. So you do take some of the recommendation from the state. Obviously, they recommended STAR previously, and which is why we were using it. So it was a recommendation from the state.
Have you found that those districts that were not using STAR, their students are more progressive in those particular areas than those that were? Or is there anyone that's looking at this to determine who's doing better and who's not doing as good because of this particular system?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, a lot of it's really about money, but I mean, frankly, these are companies and their job is to market to districts. And so they all try to make sure that they say, this is what we do and this is what is most appropriate for the state of Missouri. I mean, so that's part of it. But there was a period of time where most districts used STAR. And so it's just a shift. Eventually, it'll probably cycle through. There'll be another company that may offer something that's better or more aligned with the state that might be recommended. You don't know, but there was a period of time where STAR was the assessment. Everyone used STAR. All the districts used STAR. We used it for over 5 years. And as things started to change, more vendors created better products. And so there was more competition, frankly. And so iReady was one that came highly recommended by the state. But there are some districts that use multiple formative assessments.
Vice President Reagan?
I look at everything that has been brought up, and I'm listening to you guys. But I'm kind of really concerned about the curriculum that we have today. And the reason why I say that, I understand when you do move from one test to another test, it should be some type of difference. But this is dramatic. This is really this is a lot of, as far as the percentages of tier one, tier two, and tier three students. I can understand if it was maybe, I'd say a 20% increase, but that's a lot of increase. So I go back to saying that I look at I remember seeing the movie Joe Clark, and we've all Lean on Me, and I go back to that. Somehow our curriculum has to line up to whereas our students are grasping the knowledge, and what are we doing to get that type of curriculum to whereas our students will be able to grasp the concept of the meanings that they are doing. I understand we got map books. I understand we have the benchmarks, but I've never seen the books in their classrooms. Books. I'm old school, and I've said it before. I challenge our curriculum. Is it really fit for our students so that they can achieve on these different tests? I mean, even though y'all switched it from what is it called?
This one's iReady.
Yeah, from STAR to iReady, but there's still the gaps. It's a big gap. So looking down the further road, are we getting the inputs from our principals of what might be good for our students? What are we getting out of this? Because I look at this and I'm concerned, very concerned.
I want to make sure that the board is aware that we still have a pretty lengthy agenda, so we do want to keep our comments to 2 minutes.
But
So just in short, I would say, and I've said this before, Hickman Mills is one school district, considering all of the districts I've worked in previously, that provides, I would say, some of the best curriculum and professional development opportunities for staff. I just have to say that. Right now, we are using the collaborative classroom curriculum for the elementary students in the primary grades. K through 3, and then Wonders and Go Math. We're also using Go Math for the younger grades as well as our math curriculum. And I would say that, we are still working on making sure that we're using the curriculum with fidelity. And so when there are gaps and we're not seeing the curriculum being utilized, that's probably an area that we have to work on, because we can't say that all students are receiving the same thing if all teachers aren't using the curriculum with fidelity. So I have to start there. And that is something we have to work on. Sometimes teachers don't want to use the curriculum. Sometimes they feel like it's too rigorous, so they want to use other things. Sometimes they want to use things that they're more comfortable with. A lot of the curriculum is really advanced. It requires a lot of use of technology. There's multiple layers. There's differentiating for students. There's personalized learning opportunities. So, I mean, it is challenging for some. But for those teachers that we've seen using the curriculum as prescribed and using the benchmarking system, and they have the technological skills that a teacher should have to really engage our students on multiple levels, you do see that their test scores are higher and their students are achieving at a higher level. So a lot of it's not just the curriculum. Some of it is the expertise of the teacher in front of the students, and some of it is just some students are not great test takers. We looked at some data. There were teachers that were saying these are students that I know are higher level students, but this is how they performed on the assessment. So there's just multiple factors, but I think overall, the biggest gap that we saw when I unpacked some of the scores was at Burke. And I think some of that just has to do with, students just not being in their school environment and just kind of how are they taking the assessment? Are they really taking the assessment and putting forth the effort that we want them to put into it? That's not uncommon. Or students who are in and out of school, you'll see that when it's time to take the assessment, we're not putting forth our best effort, and that's just me really analyzing the data and where we saw kind of the higher scores and maybe lower scores. But overall, I mean, it is a new assessment, and so, I don't necessarily know that I can say what will happen until we take it again. I've looked at it, I've watched students take it. Teachers sat in, principals sat in when we vetted the assessment. So we feel pretty confident that this is a rigorous assessment for our students. So we're not doubting that at all.
Madam President.
Yes.
So I just want to go back just for a second. This is our first implementation of this program, correct?
For the assessment, yes.
So these are.
That means my time is up.
Oh no, you're fine. So these are assessment. This is a baseline assessment. So what this does is actually identify those kids that we need to know where they're at, so that we can actually work on tier 2, as you stated before, correct?
Yes, it really is our formative assessment for all students. And so it is basically, we use this to say, where are we right now as a district? Where are first graders right now? How many first or second graders do we have performing on or above grade level based on this assessment? Again, this is just one data point. But it is the district benchmark assessment. So we have to have something that we're using to assess all students. Okay. So we would anticipate an increase for the winter.
Absolutely, because the one thing I want to make sure that my colleagues understand is that this is the first step in the implementation process. So to even try to look at the curriculum based on a new implementation process that just pretty much got started would be an inaccurate assessment.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we're moving on to consent items. I'm sure that everyone's had an opportunity to review the consent items. At this time, the chair is seeking a motion to adopt 9.1 through 9.6.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt on consent item 9.1 to 9.5.
6.
6.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Are we voting on all of them separately?
Vote on them all together.
all together? I
Yes.
have some questions then. See here. About the 9.5, when is that going to be done? Because we did talk about it, but when did we come up with a date? When it's going?
Christmas, spring break, those breaks when we don't have students, yeah.
Okay, Christmas. And it should be done by the first of the year?
No.
When?
First of 2020?
Yes, sir.
2020? No. We're talking about Christmas and then spring break this coming
It's a
spring.
two-year plan.
It's a 2-year plan,
Yeah,
okay.
it's 2-year deal. 2-year financial plan.
All right.
Be completed prior to August 1st.
Director Abram,
Aye.
Director Brooks,
Aye.
Director Carter, Vice President Reagan, Director Watry,
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
At this time, we're moving on to new business, the approval of the financial report.
While they get pull the PowerPoint up, I will be presenting the October finance report this evening. It's
loaded in.
it's an attachment.
Loaded in.
I'm sorry. It's always like that. This is November.
Keep going.
It has to be the end of the previous month.
That's not it.
Okay, so I need to present from the.
Hold on a second. Where am I? In the past, go back to you.
It's item 10.1.
Thank you. All right, so tonight's report, as a review for the board, is for the month, the finances for the month of October. So these are numbers and figures as of October 31st. The first slide, as you compare, if you have your finance report open, the information on the slide aligns with page 4 of the finance report that Ms. Wilsey shares with you on a monthly basis. So starting with the revenues, the amount of money we're bringing in. And so as you look at that for the month of October, $6.3 million, year-to-date receipts at 17.3. And as you look at the percent of funds that we have received, we're at 19.2%. Ms. Wilsey always does a good job of showing the comparison so that you can see for the previous year. This time, October 2018, we had received 18.7% in revenue. And so you see the comparison there. And again, this slide aligns with the information on page 4 of your finance report that we'll be asking you to approve this evening. The next slide, which aligns with page 7 of your finance report, is the total number of expenses. And so October expenses, $7.1 million, year to date, 23.6. The percent of expenses that we've paid thus far is 27.8% for the month of October. If you look at the comparison to October 2018, the percentage was 26.2%. Again, these are total expenses. And so you see year to date as well as monthly information. New business items are items that are, this must be one of the items on the contract in terms of planning in advance for Ruskin's graduation, Silverstein Arena on page 4. And so showing that that amount for hosting the graduation at that facility has been budgeted for. Ms. Wilsey has shared the account that the funds will come out of. Additionally, changes. And so what I've asked Ms. Wiltsey to do this year is we closely monitor our progress in terms of meeting a 15% fund balance by the end of the 1920 school year, is that any amounts or totals that have not been budgeted for will continue to be tracked for the board, so that as we work our way through this school year, there is a constant monthly reminder in terms of changes to the budget. And so as a reminder for the board, we had not budgeted for the playground equipment and the process and all of that Mr. Weekly handles at Urban. So what we had originally planned as we worked our way through our Shaping Our Future is that we could move playground equipment from one of the buildings that we repurposed. However, we could not move that equipment and it still be under warranty. And so for the safety of students, there was an additional amount that wasn't budgeted. And so the process has started as of last week, right? Mr. Weekly, they started laying foundation for that. And so that was an additional change to the fund balance of 0.227. And then the debt service defeasance, last month, if you remember, Mr. Lorenzo Boyd was here presenting that information, but that did not have any impact to the budget. In fact, there was a savings for the district in terms of the debt service. Will not have an impact on our 15% fund balance at the end of the year for the general fund, but she is tracking that information for the board. Additionally, it shows the 3-year projection. As with the $5.5 million that we cut through our Shaping Our Future plan or reduced our budget, it shows a 3-year projected fund balance beyond 1920. And so you can see, as a result of the reduction of $5.5 million, what it looks like in terms of our projected fund balance 3 years out beyond 1920. Should there not be any significant changes to district or a significant decline in enrollment, but we'll continue to monitor that. All right, and so that concludes the finance report overview for the Board of Education, giving the highlights. Again, you'll see at the top of each one of those slides, there was a page number in parentheses. Those numbers align with the information in your actual report. And so at this time, we are asking the board to approve the finance report for October 2019.
Madam President, I move for approval of the reports that have been submitted by the superintendent for the 2019-20 school year.
I second.
Discussion?
Director Abram.
Aye.
Director Brooks.
Aye.
Director Carter. Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Director Watry.
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
All right, the next item is item 10.2, requested board action relative to the approval of the tax anticipation loan. And so the recommendation is tonight for the board. The superintendent recommends approval of the $3.5 million tax anticipation note with an estimated 3.25% interest rate to take place in December and to be paid in full no later than January 15, 2020. For the board, as just an overview, the Hickman Mills School District is in need of a tax anticipation note for the month of December to allow us to pay bills and payroll prior to the receipt of the Jackson County payments for the 2019 taxes. And so due to the fund balance at the end of the 18-19 school year, the district is in need of a tax anticipation note to cover the December 2019 bills and payroll. The district closed buildings at the end of the 2018-19 school year to help increase the district's fund balance for the 19-20 school year. Additionally, if this information is important for the board, the district contacted two banking institutions, UMB Bank and Commerce. The interest rate was the same for both institutions, so UMB Bank was chosen as they are the district's financial institution. Now, the benefit, the district can receive up to $4 million in funds through the tax anticipation note. The district is requesting $3.5 million tax anticipation note for the 2019 to be paid off again in January of 2020. The district's estimated cost for this loan payment for a 1-month period is $9,722, an estimated interest rate of 3.25% through the district's banking institution, UMB Bank.
I do have a question. For some reason, I'm just trying to figure out how much cash should the district have on hand during this time each year?
Well, as you know, our auditors recommend the 24%, but the board has set a goal for 15% at the end of the school year. But because of the clawback and the other financial items that we encountered last year, we ended our school year at the 18-19 school year with a fund balance of 8.57%. So in an effort to cover our December bills prior to us getting the tax payments from Jackson County, that is why we're requesting the anticipation note.
I have one more question. So moving forward, I think it's important for the board and the district as a whole to reevaluate to see if 15% is enough. Because this is the second consecutive year that this district has had to do a tax anticipation loan to pay the bills for December. If the loan is not approved by the board, where would the fund balance be, Dr. Cargile?
That would be a question that I would need to pose to Ms. Wilsey upon her return, but if the tax anticipation note isn't approved tonight, you run the risk of not making payroll in December and not paying bills in December. It's crucial that this is approved this evening.
I asked the president, I heard your question, I heard the superintendent's answer. You asked a question about the fund balance, though. I asked that at the meeting last night, or night before last. So tell us where were you suggesting we get the money from?
I'm not suggesting we get the money from anywhere. What I'm suggesting is that as a governing body, that we begin to position ourselves more physically. That the 15% was the first phase of the board's trying to stabilize this district in order to provide better access for our students. The fund balance is just not important just to pay staff. It's about stabilizing our district to ensure that we are providing and can provide the type of educational resources that can continue to move our district towards accreditation and other things to recruit and pay teachers what they need to be paid so that we have a competitive teacher salary.
If I might, my question was not a trick question. You asked if we don't approve this tonight, what does it do? I thought I heard you say, what does it do to the fund balance?
Yeah, and Dr. Cargile says that's a question for Dr.
But I can't answer this. And so we reduced our budget by $5.5 million as we plan for this school year. Those dollars aren't readily available at the start of the school year. It's a saving over the year. It's a savings over the year. So just because we plan for a 5.5 million reduction, we have to continue to monitor our expenses throughout this school year. That's why we continue to say the projected fund balance for the end of the 1920 school year. We didn't start the year with an additional $5.5 million. That's what we're working towards over the year, because if that was the case, we would not be asking for a tax anticipation note.
And the reason for my questions is because we do have 3 new board members. Yes, I may know the answer. What'd you say, Dr. Wadry?
I'm doing math.
Okay.
In my head.
I may know the answer to the questions that I'm asking, but we have, as a responsibility of the board chair, it's important that the new board members get caught up to speed and understand what this means.
Well, Madam President, I've been here for a year. Tell me what the answer is.
Which part? Which part you want,
you said-
Director Brooks? Which part would you like?
You mentioned that we had 3 new members, and you
Yeah,
wanted them to know.
we have 3 new members. So one, they need to understand what it means to have a tax levy loan at this time.
Okay, I've heard you say something different. Yes, I understand what you're saying now. Thank you.
Even though I may know what this means, it's important as leaders and good stewards that we bring them up to speed, regardless if we want to have the discussion in public or not.
That's the only place we can have.
Yes. Vice President Reagan.
I'm kind of perplexed right now because, being hit with this today, and I know I've asked about this fund balance percentage for a long time, Mr. Brooks. I know that I've asked I've asked, do we have enough? I've challenged us on the percentages. I know I've asked this question. So for this to come today, like we got to do it today, I'm really, I don't know what to say. Because it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like, I asked. I know I've asked. I've looked at the tapes. I've looked at the tapes about percentages, and I know I've asked. I know I've been looking at this money because I know we can't do nothing without money. But to come in October, no, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. Let it be stand corrected. This is November, and ask us to pay for something at the 9th inning. This is the 9th inning. And we've already set a goal because we all went back and forth on the percentages back in the closed session of what we want us to have. And I kept on saying when Mr. Chandler was here, we both pushed for a higher percentage. And today, to hear this today, for all you new board members, you need to hear this. And I've said it before, but to come today, I understand we got to pay bills. I got that. But we have to do better.
2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to but I mean, this is perplexed to me to come to this today and ask for some money. And we should have done this a long time ago if we would have been good stewards, because I've said that too. I've said this.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Reagan.
Madam President.
Dr. Cargill had a response.
Oh, go right ahead.
So, Vice President Reagan, it's unfortunate that you are perplexed, but we presented this at the same time this time last year. Last year, in fact, it was November 15th, 2018. And so, again, I must reiterate, I'm not saying that the 15% fund balance goal that the board has set is not an appropriate goal. But again, we do not start the school year with that $5.5 million. It's accrued throughout the school year as a savings. So basically what we presented to the board March 7, 2019 was the savings that we would not spend this school year as compared to last year. And so then you save that money. And so respectfully, we're doing what we need to do to save dollars. And so a reduction of not spending $5.5 million that we spent last year, that says a lot for a district, for the board to set that goal, and for my team and I to be able to present a plan of a savings for the district for $5.5 million. We don't have that today, November 14th.
But I know I did challenge my colleagues.
It also doesn't mean that we've done something wrong either.
No, I thought we should have went higher. I thought we should have cut into more of the leadership.
That's
I know you
order.
can't.
We have to
Point
go.
of order. All
I know
right.
it's point
So
of
right
order, but
now
I'm-
we are
Point of
moving
order?
on
I'm
to
responding back to the comment that was
point
made.
of order, and we are moving on to Director Watry's question.
After I get done, I would like to call this to a vote and just squash this one. Well, hold on a sec. I've got 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and mark my own. So the problem that I'm having right now is not the complexity of this conversation. It's the fact that, one, we did discuss this in finance committee. That's point number one. Point number two is that based on what we know is to be like a .0 percentage, which is I think what like 100, yeah, like $120,000. You can tell by looking at this number that it will offset our fund balance expeditiously. Now, as a as a freshman board member, I'm aware of this. I'm aware of the fact that without taking this in, that we will be subjected to, we would not only just upset our fund balance, but we would dilapidate. And the teachers would, we wouldn't meet payroll. That was established in finance committee. When we discussed this in finance committee, which was 2 days ago, we had brought this to the we brought this to the board. We decided to bring this to the board because we already asked these questions. We asked the question of if we what would happen if we didn't accept it. We asked the question if how did we get to the point where we need this? Why do we need this 2 years in a row? But the thing is that we closed schools last year, so that plays into the reasons why we need this too. We have an offset fund balance. That's why we need it. It's not saying that the one question in which I asked when this was brought up was how can we act proactively to make sure this doesn't happen again? This is not a matter of going back and forth if we need it or not. It's the superintendent recommends it, but it's necessary for us to ensure that our teachers are paid. That alone automatically brings this to a vote for us. And if you decide to vote against it, then that's at your own volition. Who you talk to? So I bring a motion.
I have a comment.
We can have a comment.
Who's he speaking to?
There's a motion on the floor that
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I motion that we approve the.
Point of
I
order.
motion that we accept the recommendation to approve of the $3,500,000 tax anticipation note with the estimated 3.25.
Point of order. You cannot stop discussion and start a motion in this part of this discussion.
Legal.
Legal?
President,
I'm just saying,
And,
we still discussing and you trying to cut off everybody's
Mr.
discussion.
Fields,
You can't do that. Y'all can't move like that.
I made a motion.
But we discussing right now. So you just killed everybody's discussion.
So, Robert's point of order.
Yeah, Roberts is just a standard. Right.
Absolutely.
I made a motion. Wasn't it?
I thought Mr. Brooks made a motion.
That's what brings the motion to discussion.
Right.
The fact that you made the motion.
Now we discuss it.
Somebody seconds it.
Right.
Otherwise, there's nothing before the body to discuss.
Absolutely.
Madam President, may I ask the secretary? I made a motion on this when this at the end of the superintendent's presentation. Did I not, or was I not also?
I do apologize. I do not have a motion that was
Ain't no
recorded.
motions. That's what I'm trying to tell y'all.
So
I'm
made a
reading, not listening.
point of order, everyone.
You know,
We
you
just heard
guys,
from
this is
Fields,
getting
our attorney.
Y'all ridiculous. Yeah, you thought you did. I'm listening.
Maybe it was for the finance report.
I'm listening. No, but
I second.
All right.
Now we can have discussion.
Yeah.
discussion. Okay.
Now, with that being said, at the end of the day, we understand what needs to be done here at the board. My question to Dr. Cargill, and she's clearly expressed that she will find the answer, and that is how much funds do the board need to have during this time next year to prevent this in the near future?
Madam President.
Okay? I want to make sure that that answer gets back to the board.
Madam President.
Thank you. Yes, Vice President Reagan.
This is 2 years. This is 2 years. 2 consecutive years. And I understand Robert's rules.
We do have 2 minutes.
And I'm gonna finish this out. But we have to, and I've said this before, we got to stop doing business like this. Yeah, I'm going to ask, but this is important. And I don't want nobody to think that, and I'm going to make the record out there, Hickman Mills family, I want to pay you teachers. I want our bills to be paid, but we cannot keep doing business like this. And I've said that before. Now, some of us I want our district to grow. This ain't helping us. Keep doing business like this every year. This is 2 years. First time, shame on you. Second time, come on, y'all. We got to get better. You can say what we want to say and sit up here and give all these things and find whatever you want to find. Bring the rules and regulations. I'm ready.
Thank you.
Madam President.
The
We have
tax
Dr. Cargal.
anticipation note is a process that was designed to assist districts in making their payroll at an opportune time of the school year. This isn't anything that any other district doesn't have the latitude to do. It's there for a reason.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cargal.
Madam President.
Yes, Director Watry.
So, I know that this conversation is probably going to be over, but obviously there's some ambivalence about this conversation that continues to go on, and I know that we're going to eventually vote on this, and I would like my colleagues to vote for this either, and it's not based on anything other than the fact that, one, we've closed schools. Two, we have had a series of unfortunate events that requires us to do this here. As far as next year, the movements that we have made proactively as a district offset the availability for this to happen again. In finance policy committee, we asked the question, how can we be more proactive so that we wouldn't have this happen again? In which the statements, based on the variables in which we've dealt with, and based on the statement of the variables that we've had to endure over the last 3 years, if you were to go back and look at all the minutes, look at any open session meetings, the decisions that this district has made to keep itself safe and make sure that our teachers are paid are the reasons why we're doing this.
Thank you. All right, so now if there's no further discussion, we will go for vote.
Director Abram,
Aye.
Director Brooks, Director Carter,
Aye.
Vice President Reagan,
Yeah, I want the teachers to get paid.
Director Watry,
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 10.3, request board action relative to the 2020-2021 district calendar. Everyone should have a copy of that in front of you.
It was requested that the 2019 be put in the, it was requested.
Yeah, this was
current one be
presented.
put in there.
Mm-hmm. You're fine. Mm-hmm.
The others are available on the screen.
Okay. Ready? Good evening again. The HMC1 school district needs to adopt an updated district calendar. To assist with future planning, the development of a 2-year calendar was prioritized and is presented for the Board of Education. A committee of approximately 15 individuals were formed to discuss the formation of the district calendars for the 2021 and 21-22 school years. The calendar committee prioritized 2 main objectives for the planning process: alignment with area district calendars and students at the center. And highlights of the proposed calendar include a student school start date of Monday, August 24th, 2020, in accordance with the new legislation governing the start date of Missouri schools. The transition away from once a month Wednesday half-day PD sessions due to rising parent concerns about child care. A traditional 3 days off at Thanksgiving. And students reporting for a total of 173 days, which exceeds the state's minimum required hours of reporting combined with inclement weather hours. This means that the designated last day for students is Friday, May 28th, and no makeup days will be required for students beyond this date, regardless of how many inclement weather days we have. The committee was unanimous in their agreement of the proposed calendar, and the superintendent recommends board action to approve the 2021, 21-22 district calendars.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved, Madam President.
So second.
Discussion?
Yes, there's one quick discussion. We did ask in the education committee if did we get a chance to check on those games? According to the change of the new calendar for our spring I guess that would be fall sports, football, or however. Did we ever get a chance to check and coordinate?
It hasn't been planned, so Ms. Rowe assures you that when they plan for is it the alumni game that you?
No, I'm just
requested?
asking. I wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that they did it.
So
They said
the
they haven't
schedule
done
isn't ready yet.
it. They haven't done that. Okay.
No, schedule for football won't start happening in January.
So we didn't really get a chance to talk to them at all. We didn't get a chance to talk to Coach Wilder. I guess that was my question. I should have. He wouldn't have had it together. Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
We have a January 6th meeting with athletic directors and we'll start beginning that process at that time. One of the other reasons why is because conference alignment is happening as well. So we may not even be in the same conference. So contracts for fall season will not go out until conference alignment has been finished.
Well, thank you for shedding that light. I wish you would have been there at the education committee. That would have helped out a whole bunch of. Appreciate you.
Director Watry,
Aye.
Vice President Reagan,
Aye.
Director Carter, Director Brooks, Director Abram,
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
IT, my computer just shut off.
All of them.
Wait,
The
welcome.
next item is 10.4, request of board action relative to the approval of the construction manager at risk selection process.
Okay. So Ms. Briggs, you're going to be participating here in a little bit. So I'll tell you what's going on. Hold on a minute. Okay, so this is a new board policy actually in 2018 that you all adopted. And construction manager at risk is really new to the state of Missouri. It's been in most of the states all across the country. The state of Missouri adopted it just a couple of years ago. Basically, construction manager at risk, the idea is that the construction manager that you hire holds all the contracts. Okay, so they're truly responsible for all the contracts that happened in the past. Our past bond project, we held all the contracts. So we literally held the contracts for 27 different vendors, and so that's hard to manage. And so what really it comes down to is construction manager. That's what they do for a living, not us. And so that's really the best way to go. And they can usually get the better deal because they're holding contracts. So. The policy has been changed. The policy is FED, and according to board policy FED, the board will, in accordance with the law, use construction manager at risk method for construction of civil projects in excess of $2 million and non-civil projects in excess of $3 million, and we would be non-civil. Civil projects are like streets and parks and things like that. Non-civil would be like our school buildings. At least 1 week prior to publishing the request for qualifications, the board will publicly disclose at a regular meeting its intent to use the construction management at risk method and the criteria it will use to select a construction manager at risk. The district, in coordination with legal counsel, has prepared a request for qualifications that will include selection criteria, time and place, and receipt for the qualifications. The district will not request fees or prices in its initial request for qualifications. That's part of board policy. Prior to opening the request for qualifications, the district will publish the bid for once a week for 2 weeks in print and in various mediums. And those various mediums are our district website and how we put out bids to everybody. Once the RFQs are open, the district staff will select less than 5 firms to be interviewed by the board in open session, which is also board policy. The board must interview a minimum of 2 construction managers at risk firms. So you can do less than 5, but it has to be at least 2. During these interviews, the construction manager at risk firms will disclose at that time when you do the interviews, that's when they will disclose their fees for the bond work. And according to policy FED, the board's decision on the construction manager at risk qualification should be 40% of evaluation, and costs will only account for a maximum of 60% of the evaluation. And we'll include that on the sheet that we give you for that interview. So, Ms. Briggs, this is the part, I'm going to bring this to you. This is the part you have to read publicly.
It is the intent of the Hickman Mills School District to begin the process of selecting a construction manager at risk for the 2020 bond project. This project will be non-civil in nature and will be performed on Hickman Mills District's property. The selection criteria for this may include the following: construction manager at risk, CMAR experience. Number 2, CMAR past performance. Number 3, CMAR safety record. Number 4, CMAR proposed personal and methodology. CMAR approach to planning and design. Number 6, CMAR experience with similar projects. Number 7, CMAR reference checks. Number 8, CMAR possible subcontractors. Number 9, CMAR ability to demonstrate proof of level and type of insurance carried to cover errors and omission, improper judgment, and reference. I like that point. Number 10, any other information that may assist the district in its selection.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. So it's the intent of the Hickman Mills District Administrative Staff to publish the request for qualifications Friday, November 22nd. Since we are stating this today, we can do it actually on the 21st. The administrative staff will open the request for qualifications on December 6th at 2 p.m. We will actually have a pre-bid meeting too, which will not be mandatory, but it's something we will do on the 25th of November. So construction companies come in and say, tell us more about what's going on and get familiar with what we're thinking. For those construction manager at risk firms that are chosen for the interviews, they will be conducted on Thursday, December 12th. I would ask that we have a combined finance and facilities group at that time to conduct those interviews. And at that time, on December 12th, and I'll arrange those interviews and let you know what those are. And they'll generally be the same time that we have the meetings for finance and facilities. And according to policy FED, the board's decision on construction manager at risk qualifications will be 40% of the firm's evaluation and 60% of cost. I want to mention that again. The intent is on the 12th of December for us to pick one firm, and then we'll take that firm to the December 19th board meeting for selection. Questions?
All right. If no questions, the board is seeking approval to move forward with the approval of the construction manager at risk process.
Madam President, I move that we act upon the approval of the construction manager risk selection process for the bonds of 2020.
Thank you.
I second.
Any discussion?
Director Abram,
Aye.
Director Brooks,
Aye.
Director Carter, Vice President Reagan,
Aye.
Director Watry,
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
No, I need the next one. Sorry. That's the policy. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Okay. So one of their goals is obviously to continue to support our families in the most positive way possible. In addition to that, also utilizing some of the buildings we currently have that are no longer in use. One of the items that came up recently in facilities, this was a month or so ago, was how could we find a permanent solution for residency and enrollment center? So as we talked in ELT and examined the buildings we currently have, one of the locations that we talked about was the former administration building on 9000 Old Santa Fe Road. In doing so, what we thought we'd also do, which we think would be prudent, is move ELL to that location as well. So we'd have residency enrollment there. ELL would be there because oftentimes our new families have some language barriers that we could help with, and so ELL would be in that location as well. In addition to that, Dr. Cargile sought out Link and was looking for some financial support for free legal aid for our families, and this would also be housed in that location as well at the former administration building. Also, another piece that we had talked about was with the current Loads of Love donation of 6 washers and dryers that are coming our way this spring, that we could possibly create a laundromat basically in that facility as well to accommodate those families. Oftentimes, the Loads of Love is difficult in the school buildings because of security measures and placement of those machines that are hard to monitor. So having people in the building doing their laundry, even though there's no one watching them do that. So we thought this would be an ideal place where actually there are no students, but it's still our public property that they could utilize. So in addition to that, new families coming into the district could also obviously understand that service was there for them as well. So another positive. The other part of that too is as these programs were to move out of this administration building to that one, we'd also gain some valuable storage space that we currently need within this building for various departments. Obviously, there's some cost involved in this, and I want to discuss some of those with you. Utility-wise, as we discussed in facilities and finance, the utilities for this building are connected to the overall Hickman campus, and so it's hard to extrapolate what is actually cost of that one particular building. So what we did, we tried to look at what did it cost when all the people were there, and now we're talking about literally 4 or 5 people there. The utility cost of that is pennies on the dollar for what the overall cost of running that entire campus is, and also it'd be hard to separate that out. Insurance-wise, we talked to our insurance broker, which is Truss. There would be literally pennies on the dollar for an increase in premiums with this. We already have to carry full insurance on the property anyway, since it's our property. The only thing we could possibly increase would be maybe the contents, and literally that would be pennies on the dollar according to Truss. It should not hinder us in any decision. Custodial coverage, there certainly is a cost there. We would need a half-time custodian to clean up and to keep things maintained there. A step 1 class 1 custodian for 4 hours a day is $13,380.50 per year. The biggest expense would be security. As an ELT, we were pretty adamant about making sure our folks were secure over there. We had the luxury of having Sergeant Dykstra always around these offices in the past, and that was always a luxury we had. We feel like Sergeant Dykstra needs to continue his service there at the alternative education facility, so security would be a must for them to be over there. What you see below in the hourly rate is the hourly rate for security coverage. Sergeant Dykstra seeked out several security companies. Most of them would not give us a bid of any kind. The 2 that did were Securitas and Titan. Securitas was actually more expensive than the off-duty South Patrol police officers, so that was not an option. And we did not want to jeopardize our school building coverage with our off-duty, so we sought out Titan. Titan did give us a price that was under the amount of Securitas and our off-duty South Patrol. You'll see that we have hourly rate, weekly rate, and the yearly rate. Our suggestion is we go with an armed security officer, and the year total will be $42,744 for that. Also listed as the overtime. I don't anticipate overtime ever being an issue in this setting. Titan security officers are uniformed at all time and provide their own transportation if needed as well. So the total cost of the security officer and the custodian is $56,124, which in effect on the fund balance of 0.1 at this time.
Madam President, as Mr. Wickler said, I think the Facilities Committee passed this out of their committee, and we passed it out of our committee, although there was with one objection. So I would move, based on the presentation and the need, that we accept the recommendation presented by Mr. Wickler on the approval of residency enrollment center.
I second.
Any discussion? Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this to the full board is to share what I think is good news to the community. If this was hidden within the consent items, we probably wouldn't have had opportunity to discuss this out loud for the community. So, good job. Thank you for bringing it back. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, and also the Facilities Committee, we did approve of this, but we also wanted it to go through you guys, and I'm glad that this is going through, and I'm glad that we're taking that enrollment out of there, and we have listened to each other's comments on getting a better place for it.
Thank you.
I did mention this. We're anticipating January 6th as a date for that to occur. So if this approves tonight, we'll begin that process of getting it ready. And I want you to know that we've tested out the facility. We've ran the heat, ran the air. Everything's working as normal. So we feel good about the facility.
Madam President, if I might, I'm just happy that we're utilizing that building. It's just sitting up there. Nobody will buy it to repurpose it for any reason. It would be costly that no one would buy it. So I think just to have it sit up there deteriorating and still got the cost to heat it and light it. So I appreciate the thoughtfulness of, and I know you did all this yourself about this. So thank you, sir. Congratulations.
You bet. And I want to remind you that this was something that our consultants at MGT said last spring. They said, don't sell this building, lease this building. This is on your campus. You don't want to get in a position where you're fighting with a leasee on your campus, on your grounds, because it is connected to, Santa Fe and Smith Hill. So, that was something they strongly suggested, which I think we all agreed about that at that time. So this is a good use. Thank you.
I'd also like to add, I'm extremely excited about the opportunity to allow our families access to the building and access to the Lowe's of Love washers and dryers, and it makes it an easy opportunity. I've had this conversation, and I've said a lot since 2017 that we need to create spaces for our families in terms of like a social services resource center, and so this absolutely becomes that. Our parents then have access to a legal aid attorney that will begin in January, and then if they don't have washers and dryers in their own home, and Dr. Skinner has shared, we have ultimately 120 identified homeless families. Just think about the access to resources now that our families will have beginning in January, literally being able to come to our former administrative center and wash and dry their clothes. And so that helps reduce possible bullying situations in buildings for students who may not have clean clothes. Like, think about the magnitude of the support that now the Board of Education is approving for our families. They are being provided access to a district site that ultimately helps and supports families. I'm excited about this.
Director Abram. Aye. Director Brooks.
Aye.
Director Carter. Aye. Vice President Reagan.
Aye.
Director Watry.
Aye.
President Briggs.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, item 10.6 is requested board action relative to the approval for publication of filing dates language for the April 7, 2020 election. And so I frequently have shared with the Board of Education that I consult with my colleagues. And so in other districts, the districts are promoting or advertising the election dates. And so this would be first time for Hickman Mills that we've done so. And so the superintendent is recommending the Board of Education authorize the publication of filing dates for the Board of Education candidates running in the April 7, 2020 general election. And so background, Jackson County Election Board and the Kansas City Election Board require public filing of Board of Education director filing dates. And so we've definitely advertised and posted this on our district website, but handling it in a more formal manner where the board would approve those filing dates. And so the language is moved to authorize the publication of filing dates for board director candidates for the April 7, 2020 election as required by law to include the opening date of December 18, 2019, from 8 to 12, and the closing date of January 21st, 2020 at 5 p.m. as official dates for accepting a declaration of candidacy. And so the recommendation again is that the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the publication of the following dates language for publishing. And so in the memo it states December 18, 2018. Please note that the language should be December 18, 2019 from 8 to 12. And the Administration Center at 5401 East 103rd Street will be the location for filing. And so times for filing will be between office hours of 8 to 5 p.m. weekdays, noting that the following location will close December 24th, 2019 at 12 noon and remain closed until January 6, 2020 at 8 a.m. Furthermore, the district administration office will be closed due to inclement weather, will close at 12 p.m. on January 17th and will be closed January 20th. The county clerk of Jackson County and the Kansas City Election Board are recognized as election authorities, and that the secretary to the Board of Education be directed to notify each of the offices in writing by January 28, 2020, and to include a copy of the legal notice and sample ballot for the April 7, 2020 election, and to direct the secretary to forward the county clerk of Jackson County and the Kansas City Election Board deposits for the cost of the election as required by law. Filing will not occur when the district is closed.
This is exciting. I mean, I'm glad to hear that we are going to start recruiting new board members sooner, better than later. So hopefully we'll have a slew of candidates come forth. So we just need to make some corrections to this document, right?
Well,
Are
we need to know
recruiting
that.
new board members or opening the situation for people to file? That's all right. I just wanted to
Okay,
bring your
I'm
attention.
thinking hopefully both.
Oh, okay, well, hey. Madam President, I would move that we adopt the superintendent's recommendation ASAP.
I second. I second.
With the noted changes for the December dates to be December 2019.
I got a question.
Yes, Vice President Reagan.
On December 18th at 8 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m., is that going to be when it's going to close at 12 o'clock and then open back up at 5? Or because that language right there, 8 to 12, and then the closing date of January 21st, 2020, up at the top, I'm on the I'm on the second sentence. It says December 18th, 2018 at 8 a.m. to 12 o'clock.
December 24th is the first day.
Yeah, that's not,
December 24th, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Right here.
And see, you got it 8 to 12, and then you say all that. I think we ought to bring this back with all the corrections before we vote on anything. I would like to do this correctly. Moving forward, I just stated, just me believe, if we're going to vote on something, let's do it correctly. I know y'all want it ASAP. I want it ASAP too. I want it ASAP, but I want it done right. And I don't think we should vote on anything with all these corrections all the time. We need to start being about business as a board, and hopefully the newer board members will do that also. And that's my challenge to all of y'all.
Point taken.
Madam President,
Yes, Director Watry.
can so. So, if Director Brooks ever would be so kind, could he make a possible amendment to amend this while we're here?
I'll accept your, state your amendment, please.
My amendment was his statement.
Well, let me do it myself. We first would have to take back everything, and then I have to start it back over. Wouldn't I have to start? I mean, if I'm going to amend something, they already seconded. We're on discussion.
Still amended.
I mean, however y'all want to do it. I mean, we could do it the which way you guys want to do it. We can play the word of the words, however you guys want to do it.
So what I would ask is that Vice President Reagan state what type of amendment that he would like made to the document, so that if Director Brooks was to retract his motion, then he can reapply his motion with the amendments made.
I don't think I'd have to retract it, just accept the amendment.
You wouldn't have to do that. You can accept as a friendly amendment to your motion if you agree with with whatever the amendment is.
Or over that.
I'd like to hear what your amendment is.
My amendment to this publication of the filing dates language is to, first of all, fix the date December 18th, 2009 to 2018 to 2019. That's the first thing. At 8 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m., that language right there, barrier, that's saying that, are you saying you're going to close it at 12 o'clock and then reopen it, and the closing date of January 21st? That doesn't make sense. You're closing it at 12 o'clock on the 18th? I need to ask that. Are they closing it at on the 18th? It's the second paragraph.
From what I'm hearing, that there is
The actual
something.
dates is December 24th, and then it closes January the 20th. And so the January 17th is a day. Are we out early, Ms. Payton, for the January 17th? What's the significance of the January 17th date?
January 17th is the King holiday.
Thank you.
Before I accept the amendment, could I ask the
Second
council or the secretary of both, the language that's being presented, is that the one that comes, is that the one that we prepared or comes out of the election board, Board of Election Commissioners?
Yeah, what is this language? Yes.
I want to
Each-
counsel.
Ms. Payton, contact it. Ms. Payton can answer. She knows the answer.
Each year that there's an election, we're required to make public filing in the newspaper. And each year we abide with that law. And each year we publish the notification, and we're required to send those newspaper publications to the election board as proof. This year, in Dr. Cargill's efforts to be as transparent as possible and to have the board as informed as possible, it was decided we would bring those publication dates to the board for a vote. So with or without the vote, we're required by law, and as we do each year, we're going to publish the information. And I apologize for the language in the memorandum, but the opening date, if we could agree on the language that the opening date will be December 24th, which is the first day that urban areas can vote, can have candidates file their candidacy, and that and on the 24th, which is Christmas Eve, we will close at noon. We will only accept from 8 a.m. until noon. And the closing date will be January 21st. I do apologize. Will be January 21st at 5 o'clock. If we could agree on that, and if I could provide you the publication information, the legal publication information, then perhaps that will resolve the issue tonight.
If I might, Madam President, ask the director here, the vice president here, does that satisfy your amendment?
Amendment still, I'm stuck right here on the second paragraph. Maybe I'm not reading right. It says required by law to include the opening date of December 18th. I'm gonna read what we have right now, 2018 at 8 o'clock a.m. to 12 o'clock p.m. And the closing date, are we closing the opening date at 12 o'clock? That's my question.
The opening date will close at 12 o'clock.
Okay, now, and the closing date of January 25th at 5 o'clock, I'm not understanding that. Help me to understand. As official dates.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
At 5 p.m., that's when the admin center closes, so we can't take any filings after there's no one here to do so.
How does it say in the thing that we had originally? Maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe I need to look at that again. How does it say that we used to have it before we made all these? Because this is not, I don't.
I can provide.
Yeah. If Ms.
I can provide you with copies of the past election publications. So that'll be fine. Because it's going to be published. I have so many weeks to have it published, so it's going to be published. And I do applaud Dr. Cargill for wanting to bring it to the board this year and provide you with as much information as possible. But it's going to be published.
So I guess I still ask my
Okay, here's my question. I asked that we amend, this is my answer for your question, Director Brooks, and I do apologize. I'm going to answer it. I would like that we, first, before we vote on anything, if we could bring this to the board with the corrections that are corrected. I mean, because we're voting on something that's not even correct, first of all. Nothing in there is correct.
We can bring an updated memo to the board
And I
December
don't think we should
19th.
keep on voting on things that we keep on saying, oh, we're just gonna just throw it in the thing. Yeah, I understand, but
Superintendent Cargill said that we'll just bring it back
Yeah, bring it
in
back.
December with the corrections.
Okay, then there's a Madam President, I don't mind withdrawing my motion. We can just
Please withdraw your
table
motion.
this until
Yes.
the next meeting, council.
Yes.
Okay, and
can,
should I,
or
then
there
I
can
can
be-
make a motion that that this be tabled to
There are
the
two
next.
ways to do that. You can withdraw the motion, in which case you don't have anything in front of you, or someone can move to table it to get more current information. Either way, either one of those will. terminate
Okay, I'll
the
withdraw the motion, and if the second will do the same, whoever that was.
I'll withdraw my
Then
second.
Then I would move that this item be tabled for corrections and put on the agenda for the next meeting, next public meeting, regular meeting.
thank you.
Got a second?
All right, moving on
Second.
to-
That's a second.
So, Madam President,
need
call
to
for the
make a
vote
motion.
on tabling. Oh, I thought he said he tabled it.
No, he withdrew.
He withdrew it? Okay, fine, all right. Okay, I misunderstood.
So no action necessary. We already know what we're gonna do. All right, so moving on to the item 10.7. Yes, that's you, Ms. Phils Johnson. I'm sure that the board has had an opportunity to review this document, the next two documents.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The next two documents are the communication plan that you all have been working on for the last couple of months. You had your second read on that, and I've made the few minor changes that you had to that document. And so, if there's anything that you want me to go over at this point, I'm glad to do so. But from my perspective, it's ready for you all's approval if you're ready to approve it.
At this time, if there's no more corrections, the chair is seeking a motion to approve item 10.7, Superintendent Board Communication Plan.
Madam President, I so move that we approve item 10.7 relative to the superintendent board communication plan.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, there is a discussion.
Yes, Vice President
I
Reagan.
think something that we typically have left out is our Board of Ethics have not been signed by the newest board members that have been here. And we're getting ready to approve a working agreement that is not, you can't put the cart before the horse. And we can't keep doing this. And if we're going to approve everything, we have to start first with our Board of Ethics. And then we can agree, and then you can go ahead and do this. You guys are, we got to do right.
All right, two minutes.
So,
All
that's
right.
a half
Thank
a
you for
minute.
your discussion at
Yeah.
the point. Is there any more discussion? All right. This time we'll go to vote.
Director Abram?
Aye.
Director Brooks?
Aye.
Director Carter? Vice President Reagan?
No.
Director Watry?
Aye.
President Briggs?
Aye.
Motion carries 5 yes, 1 no.
All right. Moving on to item 10.8, second reading of a board and superintendent strategic priority. This is a reminder that this came out of the Board of Education retreat, and this is what we have decided as a body to work towards.
And so the revisions that you all asked for following the October 29th special meeting have been made. And so unless, I don't have anything further to present on this document, unless anyone has questions for me. I would note that there are several of these, and it's great to see that this board is already working towards and have completed.
At this time, if there's no more changes to this document, the chair is seeking a motion.
Madam President, I move that we accept 10.8 Board Superintendent Strategic Priorities.
Second.
The only discussion that I have is I would like to see this, if this is approved by the Board of Education, if we can post this on the district website as a document that we can guide ourselves with and by. I would like to see it posted on the district website somewhere.
I got a question too.
Yes.
Board tab?
Go ahead.
Yes, Vice
Go
President.
ahead.
I just said,
Susan, go on.
no, I was saying we can post it under the board tab if it's approved.
Just a quick question. We can approve things without doing the rest of the things that we have done as far as with our ethics. We can go ahead and approve everything. That's my question.
Certainly, you can approve your board strategic priorities. Those came out of your retreat, and the communication plan was a document that was a part of this, was one of your strategic priorities to create. So, this board can certainly approve either one or both of those documents.
All right. If there's no more discussion,
Director Watry,
Aye.
Vice President Reagan,
No.
Director Carter, Director Brooks,
Aye.
Director Abram,
Aye.
President Briggs.
aye.
Motion carries 5 yes, 1 no.
Move it on to item 11.1, first reading of 2020 CSDGKC.
Thank you. What I'm presenting now are the 2020 legislative platform statements. And so this evening, I'm recommending that the Board of Education adopt the Cooperating School District of Greater Kansas City 2020 legislative platform. Just as a reminder, typically this would have been presented by Kelvin Simmons, Mr. Kelvin Simmons, who we worked with in the past with the Nexus Group. But as a part of our reductions, we are not partnering with the Nexus Group this school year. And so as a result, are adopting the priorities and the platform as a consensus with the Hickman Middle School District being a member of the Cooperating School Districts of Greater Kansas City. And so each district should have priorities, legislative priorities that they approve each school year so that as we engage in conversations with legislators at the state level, we have then documented what we're supporting and what we're opposing. And so the legislative platform you see in front of you has been approved by the Cooperative School Districts of Greater Kansas City Committee. And so that's all of the superintendents in the metropolitan area. And so the major change in this year's platform is the second key issue, which states that we've added the request that all MOCAP approved virtual programs meet the same standards that all school districts must meet. This is the same expectation that we've said over several years in terms of charter schools. And just for additional information, our legislative liaison is Mr. Steve Carroll, who many of you have heard speak at the Cooperating School District dinners, where he presents a legislative update to the members of the Cooperating School District. And so in alignment, and just wanting to show the alignment with our 5-year strategic plan, it does align with the pillars and the actions outlined in the Hickman Mills 2019-24 5-year strategic plan, specific to our districts, our schools, as well as our community. And so the framework to allow you to have an opportunity to review the platform is a first reading tonight, tonight's board, and then for the adoption at the December meeting, December 19th. And so allowing each board member an opportunity to read through the key legislative priorities, again, the legislative issues that the KC Metropolitan Superintendent support and those that we do not. And you'll see on the back of this document that each of you have in front of you all the participating school districts that are a member of the Cooperating School District. And so each one of us met with Steve Carroll and Dr. Kenny Southwick, the executive director, to discuss those priorities that we support and those that we oppose. And so I'm asking the board to adopt these priorities December 19th, but wanted the board to have an opportunity to review them.
All right, thank you. All right, so moving on to item 12.0, Board Committee Reports, Education Accountability Committee, Director Abram.
Committee report. Okay, so the Education Accountability Committee, we discussed the calendar for the next 2 upcoming school years, which was approved on tonight. We also discussed the new formative assessments and the data with that, which was also discussed tonight. We discussed our behavioral RTI and code of conduct updates. We have 2 task force working together to implement, to create a new policy for that. More information will be presented at our next meeting, and then we'll have a more formal information that'll be able to give a more in detailed update at that time.
All right, thank you. Facilities Committee, Vice President Reagan.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, we have talked about the residency and enrollment center move. It was also discussed tonight and passed. Thank you all. We also spoke about the pavement that's going on over at Irvin, and as we know, it was discussed tonight also. Mr. Weekly also brought to us about the construction manager piece. That was also discussed tonight. And I want to applaud Mr. Weekly for getting everything done over at Dobbs. We do appreciate that. Most of the things that he stated, we're still waiting on the update on the slides for compass at Burke, the wall, or what we're going to do here, because there's an opening upstairs for the 5th graders. I think that's the 5th graders, is that correct? And so we're going to be waiting on what it's going to be cost effective. Other than that, that's about all.
Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. The activity of the committee that met this past Tuesday, those items are passed and were well discussed tonight and passed upon. So thank the board for passing on those items.
Policy Committee.
We at the Policy Committee discussed MSBA policy updates, in which we will continue to discuss and go through a second reading. We also had Dr. Skinner come and present to us the policy student handbook revisions, in which he has comprised a committee of 11 to address student handbooks for both the elementary as well as secondary level. The dates are to be provided to the board in the sense of those when that committee meets. We also discussed student discipline and policies were provided to my colleagues to be able to look over and keep in the forefront of their mind, especially as we go through student handbook revisions, so that we ensure that the handbooks match the policy. Lastly, we are currently working on a memo to work on the policy DLCA recommendations for amendment, which we voted on in September.
Right, and I think that Director Carter, thank you, had something that she wanted to share about Ingalls. Did you want to take this time to share it, Director Carter?
Actually, I was going to do it a little bit later, but.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, if there's nothing else at this time, moving on to informational and future agenda items. December 3rd, 2019, the Policy Committee will meet at 5:30. December 10th, 2019, the Education Accountability Committee will meet at 5 o'clock. December 12th, 2019, the Facilities Committee will meet at 5:30. December 19th is the regular session board meeting at 6:30. December 23rd through January 3rd, 2020 will be district winter break. December is here already. If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned at 9:10.